Welcome to Letters from Rebellion, a space for the fears that we carry, the choices we avoid, the conformity we praise, and the chains we kiss. Reflections on courage, habits, and the inner rebellion that reshapes who we become. Cowardice doesn't show up when you run away from a fight. It shows up when you wake up and choose the same small day again and again. I was never the quiet one. I've always been the person who says the things that everyone else is circling and did the things that everybody else was avoiding. Never waited for a permission to hit the real point, and people call it bold, direct, sometimes abrasive, sometimes intimidating. Whatever helps them to avoid owning the same voice inside themselves. I remember sitting in meetings and places where speaking the truth plainly and watching half of the room lower their eyes and tilt their heads. And then after that they would message me that they agree with me and they didn't want to say it out loud. Well, they were not thanking me for my courage, they were outsourcing their courage. And that's how cowardice spread, through silence disguised as diplomacy. Cowardice isn't shaking hands with fear. It's rehearsing staying small as a lifestyle. It's the way people protect their image more than their direction. They talk about humility, they talk about balance and patience, but the tone always betrays them. They don't protect their wisdom, they're protecting their comfort. I don't advocate for confrontation, and I don't speak loud just to be loud or to win an argument. I speak because reality does not bend for people who whisper. And the world calls that intensity. And that label is the first layer of resistance. So if they name you as too much, remember that this is their way of never having to face how little they are. People imagine cowardice as running from danger. Well, it's much simpler than that. It's refusing to stand into your own space. And you say it every time someone knows what's true, but waits for someone else to make it socially acceptable first. So it becomes a group project. Everyone waits for a volunteer, but no one signs off their name. Cowardice show up even when no one else is watching. It's waking up and knowing that you've outgrown a place, but you stay in anyway, whether it is a job, a relationship, or a country, or a city. It's wanting a different life and spending another year rehearsing why you're not ready yet. Cowardice show up when you're carrying more direction so clearly that it keeps you awake at night, but then you choose a routine in the morning because routine does not expose you. And speaking is just one expression. The real cowardice happens internally, in private, in decisions no one will judge you for except you. There is a specific moment I see on repeat every time a group of people knows something is wrong, whether it is a direction, a culture, or a decision. And everyone else feels it, but the first person who speaks disrupts the illusion of harmony. Not because they're wrong, but because it exposes the negotiated lie everyone is sitting in. And this group starts to avoid eye contact. Not because they disagree, but because agreeing publicly will demand from them to stand behind it. And that discomfort is not a conflict, it's cowardice revealing its shape. My life has never punished me for my actions. My punishment always came from people who were exposed by my actions. When you refuse to stay small, you make other people conscious of their own compromises. So they don't resist your words or your actions, they resist the parts of themselves that they have abandoned. When you move with full conviction, even silently, you threaten people whose lives have been built on hesitation. And the resistance isn't to your words or to your actions, it's to your momentum. Some people want you bold just until your boldness starts demanding from them. And that's why pressure isn't social, it's existential, because movement exposes stagnation. And they call it arrogance, they call it aggression or ego or lack of humility. Well, there's too many labels, and these labels are cheaper than courage. There is a reason why the world prefers you to stay quiet in your version of you, or small in your version of you, because it keeps order without growth. And cowardice isn't personal, it's cultural. It's a very well-rehearsed training imposed by society on you without you even noticing. Entire environments teach people how to shrink collectively together in synchronization. So you see families, they avoid honesty to keep the fragile peace. You see teams that reward compliance. You see corporates reward obedience and punish initiative. You see friendship built on matching each other's restraint. People bond over mutual avoidance, and they call it peace, they call it respect, but harmony built on avoidance isn't really harmony. This is anesthesia, and you don't feel alive there, you feel tolerated. And the cost isn't tension, the cost is being forgettable, and maybe sometimes negligible as well. I've watched people choose belonging over selfhood long enough to know the pattern. They start to speak in a very safe way, measure their words. Every move is predictable, every opinion becomes soft even before it's spoken. They ask for permission indirectly. They pretend that they're waiting for the right time. But what they're actually waiting for is someone to validate the choice for them so they don't have to take ownership. That's the quiet death, actually. A life full of choices made by proxy. A life built on fear. And that's the real pandemic. Not just fear, but the celebration of fear. You see it especially in those who once carried fire in them, and they started to dim slowly, one compromise at a time. And when they finally start to speak again, their voice sound like someone imitating themselves. There are decisions I made alone, projects that I pursued when no one believed in me or in the project. There are risks that I took when I had no support. Moves that I have made, not waiting for somebody to upload. And these moments, they reveal different kind of cowardice. Not fear of rejection, but the fear of responsibility. The weight of a life that you choose is way heavier than a life that is chosen for you. And cowardice protects you from being the one to blame, but courage accepts the blame before even success exists. Courage for me has nothing to do with being fearless. It's choosing to stay full size even when the room is shaking. It's not inflating, it's refusing to collapse. It's keeping the same tone when others lower their voice. It's being willing to be misunderstood because clarity doesn't wait for consensus. I don't speak or act to dominate. I do my actions and I speak to stay aligned between my body, mind, and soul. And the outcome doesn't determine the value, the act does. People think courage is a personality trait, but let me explain. Loud people assume they have it, quiet people assume they don't. But both are wrong. Courage isn't about volume, it's about friction. It's allowing your direction to collide with what the world with the world instead of sending it down. Most people spend their lives reducing friction because they don't want to endure it. And courage does the opposite. It increases the tension because the tension reveals. You choose it when you say the things that you wanted to say. When you say yes when you wanted to say no. You choose it when you act without waiting for an agreement. You choose it when you risk losing connection rather than losing yourself. Courage is self-respect expressed physically. If cowardice is loyalty to comfort, then Courage is loyalty to direction. And here is the shift that matters the most. Cowardice will ask you, how do I say this without disrupting anything? While courage asks you, how do I say this without abandoning myself? That's the only distinction. And most people don't lack courage because they're weak. They lack courage because they are addicted of being accepted. They want to land softly. They want to be understood, agreed with, applauded. But courage doesn't guarantee any of that. Sometimes it leaves you alone at a table while everyone stares at their phone pretending they want to leave. So I'd rather sit alone than dissolve for company. Look at your life, not the polished version that you show the world, but the private one, where you have traded your presence for belonging, where you have silenced what you knew because the room rewarded compliance, where you have chosen to be liked instead of being aligned. Don't justify it, just name it. And once you see where you vanished, you can decide whether you're willing to disappear again or no. Cowardice spreads through imitation. One person starts it and the other follows. So you see groups become compliant, direction starts to fade, and the strongest voice becomes internal and never used. Courage spreads differently. It does not inspire people, but it pressures them. It forces a choice. Grow to meet the moment or leave the moment. Step aside. Your job isn't to convince anybody, it's to stop collapsing so you can start seeing yourself clearly. And courage doesn't ask of who approves or who don't approve. It asks of who you become if you don't act. You were built to live, you were not built to live quietly. You were built to live and carrying weight, to provoke direction, to force clarity. If this costs you comfort, then this is good, because comfort was never the point to start with. And if your presence doesn't disturb anything, then you're not present at all. Well, if cowardice spreads through imitation, imagine what happens when indecision enters the picture, when every choice becomes another way of staying small. This is where we will go next.